it ain't bragging if you can back it up.
Good morning. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Cinco de Mayo, brought to you by the fabulous beer out of Vicksburg, Key City Mi Vida. It's their Mexican lager. It's delicious. Key City Mi Vida. Find it today, call for it, and celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Also, the street tacos at Two Brothers. That's a perfect play. I'll be in Starkville later today. Looking forward to that. And then we'll broadcast from Pearl River Resort on Thursday, and that'll be awesome. We welcome in our friend Mike D. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Your next video wall for your business, your church, or your school is powered by Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com. Mike D on the show. Mike is, we were talking about Lane Kiffin and all the hype and the fact that he plays the villain perfectly. Have you already picked up on, I mean, you already knew that. You followed him for years. But have you picked up, now that he's yours, and he's the Louisiana, New Orleans, LSU media guy, have you picked up that other people don't like Lane and that he's plays the villain role damn near perfectly in the SEC and college football right now?
Yeah, he's cast right for the part, all right? And, with everything that's happened at LSU, it was almost like, they found the slipper that fit on Cinderella.
Yeah.
I mean, it was perfect for him, and he doesn't mind it. And it's always sort of has been that way. He was one of the first guys to really embrace the transfer portal, the NIL type deal. A lot of people kind of, flung their nose down on Kiffin when he did that at Ole Miss. Brian Kelly was one. I'm not paying for players. Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Dabo.
And, you get run off. If you didn't understand, you have to play that game today. But, he's the type of guy that I think doesn't mind it. He would rather take the heat himself than throw it on his team, and doesn't mind that the hot spotlight of the sun. Now, a lot of people say, I don't mind it, but, they're lying. They don't like it at all. And him, he embellishes it all the way. And so, no matter where I do a show, even if it's on the Saints or the NFL or draft or whatever, or college football, it all comes back to the end about Lane Kiffin and how, that he's a sort of a perfect fit for LSU at this point. Man, and you think about, not only with Lane, but with Will Wade as the LSU basketball coach. Kim Mulkey, super successful, but she's a bit of a lightning rod too, for controversy. The one guy that, and he eats, sleeps, whatever, baseball, is Jay Johnson. He's won 2 out of the last 3 national championships. His demeanor is totally different than anyone else, even though this year it's really been a season of disaster for LSU baseball-wise. But it is really something to cover it. I tell young reporters this all the time. Man, embrace it. It's not always going to be like this. You're not going to have this array of coaches with these personalities, with this background in Baton Rouge all at one time. It's not going to always be that way. So soak it in, guys. They're going to give you content, even when you're not looking for content. They're going to give it to you.
Mike D on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. And we're talking LSU coaching personalities, and Mike D framed it up great. They've got 3 of them that are incredibly talented and wild horses. I mean, this is awesome. Kiffin, Kim Mulkey, and, of course, the American gangster Will Wade. Mike D joins us on 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Hey, Mike, what have you heard about Sam Levitt's injury/recovery? Some people are saying that he won't be ready by, late summer or Labor Day. What have you heard?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
People saying that have no clue of what they're talking about. But it's part of the narrative that goes along with. The one thing I will say this, my dad would talk about, the rivalry between LSU Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
And, he grew up in a different era than me. And how heated it was, especially when you think about into the late 50s, into the 60s. That was really a heated rivalry. In my lifetime that I can remember, I don't ever remember it this heated between LSU, Ole Miss from a football standpoint. Now, there's always going to be a little bit of turbulence if it's basketball, baseball, that sort of thing. But right now for football, I get stories daily, and I know where it's coming from. I don't have to dig it up. Man, the rivalry is really super heated. So you're going to hear stuff from both ends too, not just Ole Miss end. It's also from the LSU side about players, coaches, everything else. So I think that's where a lot of that is coming from. But everything I've been able to gather, and he is running on that foot, and he is on schedule. And I'm fortunate to work with the people at Thibodeau Regional Medical Center and Ortho LA, the orthopedic part of it, and they do a tremendous amount of work on athletes today from across the nation. And they all pointed toward that this most likely a full recovery would be somewhere middle to late June. And they told me that back in January, that was going to be the kind of countdown deal with it. And the Lisfranc injury today is something we've seen a lot of athletes go through. And the way Sam Levitt runs around, that's important for him. And so I understand the comments and thought process behind it, but everything I've been able to gather and see, Levitt will be ready for middle to late June and ready to roll. And he did participate in some portions of the spring practice. And, Bo, he's the big key offensively. There is no question.
Yeah.
And Lane Kiffin has said it, that Sam Levitt is the key to this season on the offensive side of football. I think he has made it known that the offensive line has played better than he thought it would. It's always got talent, and he's went out and get guys, especially at wide receiver, for this team and upgraded in different kind of receivers. Trey'Daz Green's just a freak of nature at that tight end spot. And then for them over the weekend to get one of the most highly recruited football players in the country, another tight end, Ahmad Hudson from Ruston High School, similar type player. I think Sam Levitt's the key for him on offense, just like I really believe Whit Weeks is the key for them on defense. This football team is a lot better when Weeks is out on that football field. His enthusiasm, his knowledge of the game, him and Blake Baker on the exact same page with things, his ability to relay what's happening on the field is such a key. And Weeks is coming off an injury too and did not participate in the drill. So I think those two guys, Levitt on offense and Whit Weeks on defense, are the keys for LSU this season, having them healthy and ready to roll for the entire season. The schedule, you play Clemson early and then play Ole Miss in week 3.
Wow.
But look how this season closes for LSU. That is really tough because you're playing Alabama and Texas late in the year.
And at Tennessee,
Yep.
at Arkansas should be okay.
Which
But
could be, that is not quite the hype game that the Ole Miss game is. But the last time Lane went there, that was quite an adventure too.
oh yeah, golf balls and
the
mustard or something. I don't remember. It was
Yeah, the
crazy.
mustard stuff. He caught a golf ball. Somebody threw a golf ball at him, and he actually caught it, in flight. So, extra security for that game also. But, yeah, the way LSU finishes the season in Game 3, if that's not game day, nothing is.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm ESPN, I'm there.
Oh,
I know. If both teams roll into that 2-0, which I expect that'll happen, man, you can't measure the hype for that game. And that's when Lane is his best, I think, when all that spotlight is on him and just try to get his players to go out there and play.
Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Lane Train pulls Clemson at home to start his kick it off as the LSU coach. And then, as Mike D said, September 19th will be LSU at Ole Miss. I can't believe it lined up that way. Incredible. Mike D joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mike, you mentioned Sam Levitt and Whit Weeks. If LSU does win big in year one, do you think it will be driven by their defense and Baker and those guys being retained, Mike D?
Hell no. That train's running on offense.
Okay.
I really believe that. It's going to be what they can do on offense. And I tell you what, one of the surprise guys, Dylan Jones, who they got from Wisconsin, he has been the biggest surprise of the spring at running back. He was the starting running back for the Badgers last year and got hurt. And, man, he has really been the talk of the spring. Dylan has really, really played well. And from not only coaches there, but from players talking about, man, this guy is a really, really good football player. Thickly built, 6'5" running back, north-south guy. And, Lane is not objectionable to playing multiple backs. And, they do return Caden Durham and Harlem Berry. And how they use Dylan along with Harlem Berry and Caden Durham. That is going to be, I think, really interesting to watch because this team has struggled running the football. Has really, really struggled running it. And I think you need a power driver. You really need a power driver running back. I can't say that Caden Durham and Harlem Berry is built that way, but Dylan is. And he has really been the talk of spring drills that, hey, LSU got something here with that big back. And but I think LSU's success will be fueled by their offense. Playing a little bit of tsunami football. Okay, I jump on you and, try to get back in the game. And then you can do a lot of things if you're ahead and you can put extra pressure. And that's where I think Blake Baker can really hone in on. And
okay.
The key to success for them is, tell me the last great pass rusher you remember at LSU.
It's been a minute.
That long pause tells you all you need to know. Going out in the transfer portal and getting Jordan Ross and Princewell Millen, I think that's the other part to watch, where I think Weeks is a big part of what they're going to do on defense. But those two guys developing, and we saw last year, Princewell, he was a really good player for them. And I think he's got more talent than his brother, Princely, to be honest with you, as a pass rusher. I think he's a little bit quicker, a little bit faster off the snap, and, man, he can rush the quarterback. But the other part is Jordan Ross, highly recruited football player, goes to Tennessee, and we saw flashes of it at Tennessee, but he was never really a consistent guy. And if you can get those two guys rolling, You got what you got. And I'm a big believer in this. Nothing at the collegiate or pro level, nothing wins more games in the fourth quarter than a pass rush. Nothing. You can talk about the great receiver and the cover corner and the running back. And if you behind and, you got guys trailing your quarterback every play, putting pressure on influence of play, man, it changes the game. How many times we've watched teams maybe down by 10 or 12 points in the fourth quarter and they come back and win? The other team is exhausted and they can't get a pass rush on that signal caller. Cannot. But if you can get those two guys rolling, LSU got something. And, again, with that offense, being able to put points on the board and quickly for you, that's the big key. I think the key is they're going to be offensive driven, but in the fourth quarter, can George Ross and Hugh McMillan be that guy that can put a consistent pass rush? That is really also, along with not running the football on offense, not being able to put pressure on the quarterback on defense has really been a downfall for the LSU Tiger football team.
Mike Detillier talking Kiffin and LSU. They play Ole Miss September 19th. It's probably going to be the biggest game in the history of the state of Mississippi, college football-wise, and we've had some big ones. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mike, I get the sense that Lane wants Saban's blessing, as kind of a good coach and all that. I feel like Lane has gone above and beyond to try to cultivate a relationship with him because I think they were oil and water when Lane was there at Alabama. And obviously he and Saban talked about the LSU job. I don't think they're close by any stretch, but how do you think their relationship is?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to assess it, to be honest with you. I think he wants his blessing. Listen, I'll be honest with you. Listening to him at these press conferences, at times, if you closed your eyes, you would think it's Nick Saban. I mean, he's got a lot of what you would hear in the past from Nick. You're hearing it from Lane. Yeah. And so there's no question that Saban played a part in him coming to LSU. There is no doubt of that. If you don't think so, then you're not really informed. He played a part into it. And I do think you're right. I think he kind of gravitates toward getting that blessing from Nick about certain things. And I agree with you. It's not like they super close, but I do think the relationship is good between both of them. That, if I'm thinking about something, let me pass it by Coach Saban and see what it is. And it's similar to Coach Saban had a relationship with Pete Jenkins, the longtime defensive line coach like that. If he needed something and he needed maybe a word or he needed maybe thoughts on something to do differently, he would call Pete Jenkins up and talk to him about it on defense. It's remarkable about how coaches form that relationship, and they're not maybe super close. They're not out eating dinner with them or playing cards or shooting pool, whatever. But they have that respect for one another. And I think Lane, he really wants that respect from Coach Saban. And I think he got it because Coach Saban would not have gotten involved if he didn't respect Lane Kiffin. Right. Yeah. There's no way that Nick Saban gets involved in this if he didn't have full confidence and full respect for Lane Kiffin. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Saban was hesitant early on, but then after the 6-year run at Ole Miss, where Lane was unbelievable, Saban came around to some extent on, allowing Lane to bounce, like you said, ideas and life advice around it. And maybe that accelerated once Monty passed away, Bingo. That was going to be what I was going to add. I think, the death of his father did have something to do with that. And I think you always looking, and if it's in the coaching ranks or if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, just sort of thoughts from someone else in that same field. And I do believe that, Lane seeked it more, once Monty passed away, and I think it was there for him. The other thing I will say about Lane, he sort of is telegraphing what he is going to change offensively and defensively. And he has brought this up 4 or 5 times, and I caught it the first time he said it, was that if you're looking for change in college football, look no farther than the NFL, on the field and off the field. What he has constructed off the field is very similar to what an NFL front office would look like and how the structure is.
Yeah.
On the field, he's brought this up a few times about just look at some of the recent changes in the pro game. And I know you and I have talked about this. The 3 tight end offense, the 13 personnel, he ran a lot of 12 2 tight end offense at Ole Miss. But I think what you're going to see from LSU is to try to go even to the point of 13 personnel, because then you can't substitute on defense. If you go small and I got 3 tight ends, I'll mash you running the ball. And it's to match up against a 6'4" plus tight end, and I got 3 of them on the field. So who's going to cover that 6'4" tight end? No linebacker. Good luck with that. And on defense is finding kind of the next Nick Emenwari. You watch Seattle's success early on last year and throughout the season. What Emenwari brought to the table, in that he was a hybrid guy. He played safety, but he was up in the box. He could play in coverage. He could play center field, kind of moving him around all over the place. And one of the first signees of this transfer portal period was Ty Benefield, who they got from Boise State. And he was a really good football player at Boise State. And I think he envisions Ty Benefield to be his version of Nick Emenwari. He very quickly embraces what the NFL changes. And I think that's something you will see from his offense this year. 13 personnel, the 3 tight ends, and to have that hybrid safety. And he's got one in Ty Benefield, who he brought over from Boise State. It is something he, in every press conference, he has brought up about, look how the NFL changes, and we adapt to what the NFL does.
Boom. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Thanks, Mike D. Talk next week.
Thank you, brother.
That was great. And you'll find it on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We'll be back in a second with Steve Robertson.